Right, so hello everybody and welcome. So today we have Andy with us, and he is a health and fitness coach from Trident Health Performance. So today we are going to be going through some strength training and the benefits of strength training in menopause. Um, and a lot of you know that I do my strength training and how much it has helped me in my journey. So we're bringing Andy in to give us a little bit of an overview on strength training and how to get started if you haven't already um, trained before. So, welcome, Andy. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, cheers, Emily. Thanks for inviting me on.
So, we're going to do a little bit more of a sort of podcast kind of way today, asking some questions, and then at the end, if anybody has any questions that they want to ask us, then they can pop them across to myself or to Andy later for us to answer. So we're going to go through first talking about, so why is strength training so important during the perimenopause and menopause, Andy?
Quickly, a little bit about me first before I get onto that question is by trade for the last 12 years or so, I've been a strength conditioning coach. So I usually work with athletes. I've worked with young kids who play sport, adults in their later years, roughly around the same age as me, so like from 40 plus. Um, just kind of help get that kind of like youthfulness back, or as close to make sure they can do what they can do for as long as possible. Which kind of led me onto this, where we're having a chat. Um, so what I started to find was when it was so predominantly all my clients are female. Um, at least 90% of the clients that I
Okay.
have are all female. Um, a high percentage of those fall into the over 40s bracket. Some like in the 30s as well, but most of those are experiencing perimenopausal symptoms, which honestly, I know everyone says they've got the best guys, but I'm so grateful for the clients that I have because they share so much. And luckily, they don't get embarrassed speaking to me about it. So it's
Yeah.
helped me learn a lot more. I don't pretend to be an expert. I'm very aware I'm a man, and I don't experience perimenopausal symptoms as well. But I do think I'm a good coach, and I do think I'm really passionate about helping people and getting to the bottom of things and try to be persistent in working out what's going on. Um, but that's all thanks to the people that I know. So people like yourself who give
Yeah.
out quality content. I'm really lucky to know good coaches who are more knowledgeable on this subject. Um, so yeah, the only reason I do well with the clients I work with is because I've got a really good circle around me. So yeah, long way of winded answering your question here, Emma.
No, but that's
So
the thing though. I think the more we have open conversations about it, I think a lot of women, I know myself, which I know, I don't know if you've had this with like your female clients, is I got really bad like gym anxiety, like trained for years, and then all of a sudden, boom, perimenopause hit, and I got this like severe phobia of the gym. I'd put weight on, I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing anymore, and going to an open gym where I could just go and train was really daunting to me. So for me, I think having a coach and somebody that can be there to guide you is a really good starting point, isn't it? And like, see, having your circle of people around you and your community. Like, I like a community of people around me. So when I go to the gym, that I feel like I'm being supported. If you know, I think it's really important, that, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, 100%. And I think a lot of people are looking where they can go into a public gym and they can just get on with the program and follow what they're doing, or they'll have a good grasp of, or just the confidence of going in and trying new things anyway. But I do think there's a high number of people who still will walk into a public gym and aim for the cardio equipment because we know how to switch it on and we know what to do. We know how to turn the levels up and down.
Safety blanket, isn't it?
We don't want to look silly when we're trying new things. Myself included, if I walk into a new gym, I've been doing this for so long and I've trained for 20 plus years. I still get a little bit of gym anxiety when I walk into a new place. I don't know where things are.
Yeah.
So we get that totally. And I do think the community side is so important. It's why I love private gyms. I think public gyms are amazing. They help so many people, but I think for community-led kind of training and support, I think there's nothing beats private gyms.
Yeah.
Um, you build a community there that you get to know everyone, you get to know what people are like, you get to know people's little quirks, you get to understand people a little bit
Yeah.
better, and you have those conversations that you would never get to have in a public gym.
Oh.
So yeah. I love it. We run an appointment only facility. So I've done that when I was running a gym by myself, and now there's a few of us in there. We still have that policy as well, so we don't have people just swiping into training. The only people that come in are appointment based, so they're coming for like group coaching or physiotherapy, or they're coming for a class, and it just stops the overcrowding, that kind of overwhelming
Yeah.
feeling that you might get. So yeah, I'm a massive advocate for that. So going back to like why I think, or not why I think, why we find that strength training really helps perimenopausal symptoms is well, you'll know more than me, Emily, is like the hormonal changes that you'll get. So like the drop in estrogen, which in effect can affect the bone density. Now, strength training at any age, from children all the way up, even young children, depending on what. So strength training is kind of a broad spectrum. So we can go from like body weight strength training to up to like heavyweight training. But strength training at any age is proven like it increases bone density. So if one of your listeners is not suffering perimenopausal symptoms, but they're coming in for the information anyway, if they're not doing strength training now, they can really get the jump on when they get into it later life, because they can really set some really good boundaries and good foundations when they get older. But also as well, it's not too late to start. You can start at any level. The important thing is finding that level that you start at. Make sure it's the right kind of it's that right starting point for you.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's about, I think a lot of people think that with strength training, it's all about going in there like heavy and hard. Sometimes I think people find that, but it's about finding their ability and understanding that in menopause, it's really important for, you know, bone density, and as we know, like 1 in 2 women suffer from osteoporosis as they get older, more likely to break bones and things. So I think, like you say, it's really important, isn't it, that people do find that balancing thing for us. Um, so we was going on to then talking about bone health and so how does it help with the risk of reducing osteoporosis, which I think you've kind of sort of answered that anyway about how it builds up the bone density, doesn't it, when they are training. So what impact does strength training have on metabolism and muscle loss during sort of menopause or even midlife upwards, really?
Yeah, I was gonna, you pretty much touch what I was going to touch anyway, but it's any age, regardless whether it's perimenopausal symptoms or just getting older in general. I don't class you as still getting older yet, Emily. I think you've still got a little bit. I've got a little bit of a jump on you, but for me especially, so sarcopenia, which is like muscle waste as we get older. So it doesn't happen as as early in life as used to think it was. So it used to be kind of, when we get to like 40 years old, it's middle age spread. And but what kind of research and science says is that doesn't really start to happen until we turn like 60 onwards.
All right.
So we do get a little bit. So it does happen a lot. It does happen, but it just happens a little bit later in life. So if we're lucky to be not near 60 yet, we can still make plenty of headroom and make some really good, solid foundation to have plenty of muscle for when we get to 60. We'll look at maintaining that right throughout. If you're in your 60s, again, still not too late to start. Anyone can do strength training at any point. You probably see like Instagram reels or TikTok reels of women in their 80s are just taking up strength training for the first time and absolutely smashing it, looking amazing and feeling amazing and moving well. So there's no sell by date on this. So yeah, so sarcopenia is like kind of the main one. But the aim is if we can retain as much muscle mass as possible, it makes movement a lot easier as we get older.
Yeah, do you think that with obviously the sarcopenia when you're menopausal, because of that drop in your hormones and things, that it's even more important to maintain that muscle? Because obviously there's some ladies like within here that can't take HRT for possible medical reasons, which obviously the HRT is going to help keep those hormones topped up. So if it's more important, do you think it's more important to do more training and strength and things so that that it helps to maintain that muscle mass so they're less likely to get the sarcopenia? Does that have an impact?
Yeah. If we're regularly giving our body, our muscles, a stimulus to grow, that's going to be enough to taper off or to buffer any sarcopenia happening. So long as our diet's right. I mean, we say lifting heavy weight or strength training is exclusive, but it's as well as like diet,
Yeah.
recovery, sleep, probably things that you've covered all before. But they all align so much that it's so important to have all those boxes ticked, or as many of those ducks in a row as possible.
Yeah, that you can do
Yeah.
with it. Thank you. Well, I can sort of answer some of my point of view, but also whether you've found this with your own clients and stuff about how strength training has helped with menopause symptoms like fatigue, joint pain, brain fog and things, because I find that personally myself, my joint pain has been a lot better. Some days it depends where I'm at in my sort of cycle as well. But have you found that with your own clients?
Yeah, yeah, and I'd love to say it was once I started strength training, that's it, it's gone, never comes back. There's certainly less reports of it. So unless they don't want to tell me, which I really don't think that's the case. It's because you'd be able to you'd soon find out anyway if someone was suffering. But yeah, rather like huge benefits and huge improvements that I've seen that my clients have told me as well of just moving a little bit better, feeling a little bit stiffer, feeling a little less lethargic,
Yeah,
which can make, if you've never done strength training before, or if you're thinking about adding a bit more activity into life, not just strength training but anything, and the thought of it just sounds draining in itself, even though adding more exercise to what you're doing may sound counterintuitive or counterproductive, but the release of all the hormones and the flushes of hormones that you might get that give you like endorphins and dopamine hits, you'd be amazed how quickly you start to find the energy coming back into your life and feeling a little bit more energized when you start doing this. And again,
yeah,
it's
and
just,
you want to keep doing it then, don't you? It's like
yeah,
that building that, isn't it? That momentum.
yeah. I mean, that's where I would recommend getting a coach or getting some support to kind of monitor how much you're doing, because the when you first start, the risk is like, oh, do more. So you
Yeah.
see how much you can do and you do more, and then overtraining kicks in. So it is kind of a balancing act, and the longer that you do it, your body can recover from a lot more. It's just that if you're just starting that, it's just finding kind of
Finding.
like baby steps and just enjoying the process.
Yeah. And that takes me kind of onto our next question about what are the best sort of exercises are of starting strength training for women, because I think, or it can be, or just generally in strength training, because I think it can be quite overwhelming, can't it? So say for instance, if people haven't got a coach, how do they go about possibly finding that right person, or how do they get started, when it comes to strength training?
Yeah, honestly, it's such a good point, that, because there's so much information out there, it's really confusing. Um, and there's a lot of, it's either this or that.
Yeah.
It's sort of like you must do this or you must never, or like 5 exercises you must never do. And I do find those kind of ridiculous because there's no context there. There's no history of what the person that you're working with. So yeah, it's you may. I don't want to frustrate anyone by kind of saying it depends, but it kind of does. It depends where you're coming from. So like any history of illness or any history of like injuries, like medical history,
Yeah.
and anything like that, that's going to play like a big part in it.
Yeah.
But let's just say if we needed 3 exercises, kind of going in counterintuitive to what I've just said. But say if you wanted to do like the main hitters, I try and aim for as many compound movements as possible because they're quite safe. So what I mean by compound movements are more than one joint moving at a time. So multiple joints moving at once, real movement. So think of like a squat, think of picking something up from the floor, so maybe like a deadlift or like some pickups or getting yourself up off the floor, so like Turkish get-ups. Anything that kind of mimics everyday life type things. So a squat could be, if you can't do a squat yet, you could do a squat to a seat. We do that every day, getting up and down off chairs.
Yeah.
Try and do that unaided if you need to be able to do that. Some kind of push, so like a press up or some kind of variation of a push up. And then I love carries. So if someone really struggles with movement but they can walk, one of the first thing I'll do is, if in terms of like improving conditioning, strength, improving, working a lot harder is carrying things. So whether
Yeah.
it be kettlebells or sandbags or dumbbells or children, or it's stuff that we'd need to do through life. Um, but yeah, I think I've went off on a tangent now a little bit, Emily. But
Oh, it's fine because I think you do, and I
um,
think you realise as well, just going back to like there when you're saying about carrying things, like, you know, even myself, I've realised that over the 9 months I've got into consistent strength training is how much weight I can actually carry now from the very, very start. I mean, apart from, I have a bit of carpal tunnel in my wrist, but it's actually by strengthening up my actual my arms and things like that of how much stuff I can actually carry now compared to what I used to. And you realise how important that is just for your life. And as you're getting older, that you want to be able to still carry your shopping when you're in your 70s, your 80s, and you want to still be able to pick things up out the car, or even just bending down and doing something like all these. It's not just about the aesthetic side, is it? When it comes to strength training, it's so much more than that. And I think that's
no,
what people don't always realise.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, if anyone's worked with me over the last 10, 15 years, they'll know that aesthetics is probably the last thing that I think
Yeah,
of. Is
yeah,
more performance. And so that's what really kind of like floats my boat. Really, it's not necessarily what someone looks like, or it's certainly not. That's not the goal, the main priority. The goal for me is what can they do, what can they get to do that they couldn't do before. Whether it's getting up off the floor and aided, whether it's getting ready for an event, whether it be like an obstacle event, like a Tough Mudder or a High Rocks or whatever it may be, whether it's getting ready for a football season or that's it's getting someone from point A to point B in
yeah.
the least amount of time as possible, but doing it the most effectively. So yeah, if we can, the goals don't really change as we get on through life. The actual the tasks that we do might change, but the goal is to keep on improving performance or maintaining performance for as long as possible.
Yeah, that's what's important, isn't it? And so just going back to some of the questions. So how often should you train? So say for women, or especially menopausal women, because some weeks we can be better than others, some weeks we can be more tired, or which I know everybody gets like that, but when we have these hormonal dips through maybe mid-cycle and things like that, is there sort of, would you give a guide on how often we should be training in strength?
Yeah, I mean, so um, I'm going to precurse this by saying it's flexibility is the main thing.
Yeah.
So if any missed sessions are made, I think we kind of briefly touched on this before we actually went recording, but
Yeah, when you
if
oversleep in the morning like me and then don't go.
yeah, so flexibility is key. Consistency is second. What comes a distant third is the exercises that you do. Oh, so if we talk about flexibility, say we need to do like 2 to 3 sessions per week, which I'd advise anyway. If you can only do 1 session a week and you can do it consistently, awesome. Start at one. If you can add in a second one through the week, brilliant. But 2 to 3 kind of seems like the kind of good, happy place to be if you want some consistency. So also as well, in terms of like, so say if we have like a day one, day two, day three. So day one we do like I'll give you an example of mine, for instance. So day one I do like a squat kind of variation. So some type of squat, whether it's barbell, dumbbell, lunges, something like that. On a Wednesday, so like day two, I won't give him a days actually. I'll just tell day two. So day two, it's variation, but still full body, but more pressing. And then on the third day, day three, is like a hinge movement. So that could be like an RDL or a deadlift or a hip thrust or something like that, but still full body as well. So the other exercise that I do might be all different kind of upper body stuff. If I do say last week, last week's a perfect example because I had meetings back to back. Didn't really sleep well, had no energy to train. I only got 2 sessions in. So your body doesn't really know whether you're following a 7 day program. Your body
Yeah.
just knows what stimulus is. And once you give it that stimulus, it will react to it. So you may give it more time to recover, which in my case, I definitely needed that because I was through the floor. My
Yeah.
HRV was low, my resting heart rate increased a little bit. So they're really good monitors to check recovery, by the way.
Yeah.
So I did my 2 days, not really performed that great. So I had like 3 or 4 days off. I trained yesterday, which was Sunday, recording this. So I trained yesterday, felt much better. That was my day three. Now I'm back onto day one again. But say if I didn't feel good yesterday and I trained today, I'd still do day 3 because I'm
Yeah.
still following my program.
Yeah.
Even if it takes you 10, 11 days to follow 3 days of training, that's absolutely fine.
I think that's the important thing, isn't it? That I used to like really beat myself up about if I had it, but sometimes I think it's a way of your body saying that you need to just rest. And you know, when I first got into strength training last year, I kept hitting it hard and doing 6 days and not resting. And then I just got really chronic fatigue then. And then it was like my body was just so sore and whatever. And then I'd have like a week off because I was like, I'm too tired or I'm exhausted. And I think it's finding that happy medium, isn't it? And I find that 3, 4, I like to do 4, but I think if I can do 3, then it's and getting my steps in and stuff. But I think, yeah, I think it's just knowing people that, like you say, if they haven't started, one day's better than nothing if it's consistent, isn't it? It's just finding what works for you and not comparing yourself to other people. Because I think that's one thing we're all kind of can be bad at, can't we? That we're like, oh, well, she's doing 6 days a week or she's doing 4, but it's what our body, allows us to do, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, they're really good points. Yeah, I agree totally with that.
So, do you feel they need to go to a gym or can they get effective results at home? Because not everybody wants to go to the gym or whatever, but what do you find is best? I mean, from a personal perspective, I prefer to go to the gym because I'm absolutely rubbish at self-discipline at home. I have all the will in the world to get up in the morning, have everything set out, but for me, I like having somebody to coach, to guide me, make sure I'm doing it right, and I find that I'm more consistent. So, what's your kind of take on this?
Yeah. So again, those 2 words, it depends. So
Yeah,
you could definitely start at home. 100% you can start at home. So I'll go back to like how strength training works, how people become stronger. So we give our body a stress stimulus. Your body adapts to that by recovering and making itself stronger. So when it comes to that second bout of stress from exercise, it's ready for it.
right.
So if we do that for 3 or 4 weeks doing body weight exercises, it'll come to a point where your body's adapted to that stress and it's no longer becoming a stress. You might be able to do more of it,
Yeah,
hopefully fitter. But if strength's the key, if strength is getting as strong as you can be, there needs to be an external load, an external resistance there. So we could either put on more weight, so we've got more of us to lift,
yeah,
which is never really the goal for a lot of people.
yeah,
Or we can start using external objects and tools, so things like dumbbells, barbells, kettlebells, resistance bands,
yeah,
and anything that weighs something. We can start using that, and the process is still the same. So strength training is just giving the muscle a stimulus, giving the central nervous a stimulus that it can tax it, it can break muscle fibers, and it will overcome that, recover, rebuild, get stronger, so it's ready for next time. So I think home workouts is a really good starting point,
yeah,
but I would recommend looking for places where you might feel at least comfortable walking through the door to have a look at. So whether that's with a gym buddy, gym buddies are worth the weight in gold if you can find a good gym buddy that can help you, work with you, keep you accountable. So yes, I do. I think at the beginning you don't necessarily need weight. If you've got a home gym, if you've got gyms at home, if you have a gym there, that's absolutely fine. So yeah, the answer is kind of eventually we'll need something else to give that stimulus or a bigger stimulus because you want to keep challenging the body.
yeah. Because I suppose as well, it's about having the volume of what weights you're gonna have at home, isn't it, and things like that. Because I know that at home starting off, I'd have been fine. But where I am now, I don't have anywhere near the equipment at home as to what I train with in the gym because you just think, well, where would I store it all? And also, it's buying it, all of it as well, isn't it? So I think, like you say, it's maybe like it's quite good to start at home if they feel a bit and they want to get somewhere, but it is worth it, the gym, definitely, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree.
Um, so how can women with joint pain or any low energy modify their workouts? So, depending on different, stages of their cycle or menopause journey and things.
Yeah, so if someone's just starting or if someone's already training and then they start experiencing these issues, or both? So I answer both.
Both, yeah, because I suppose like it's whether if they're at the start of their perimenopause and they're not 100% sure, where they're at and they're getting like really bad joint pain and their energy's like through the floor and they're so fatigued that they're in this bit of how do I get out of this to get to the gym? So I suppose answering it from that perspective first, so then how they are once they're in training.
Yeah. Yeah, it is really, really good. So if it was someone who's never trained before, morale's quite low, not really in a great place. It's more of a case of what can they do rather than what should they do. I try not to use should as much as possible because again, it's just us being mean to ourselves. What we say, oh, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, I should be do what this person does. So it's a case of like, what can you do? What can you physically do? If it's nothing, okay, we'll try again a different day. We'll try again next week. We'll try again. But the thing is that we do keep trying. So if it's, I've just about got enough energy to take my dog for a walk on the block, awesome, let's do that. If it's, I've just got enough energy to try 10 squats, just getting up and down off my chair, brilliant. So we'll start there and we can progress. And then when symptoms alleviate a little, then we can start pressing a little bit. Because I think, well, I'll go on to this, onto the next one as well. So if you've never trained before, it's more a case of what can you do?
Yeah.
If you're struggling for ideas of what you can do, I'm sure I'll have my details on that. This isn't a case for me to just get more clients and bring more money in.
No,
I'm more than happy to help people.
yeah, and I think it's about, and
No, sorry.
sorry, it just like broke off then. But yeah, I think like you say, and there's one thing I always remember you telling me like a few years ago, which I always really liked this analogy of doing little exercise bites. So throughout the day, if you're overwhelmed of, oh my God, I can't even think about doing half an hour or 45-minute workout, that adding a couple like 10 minutes a couple of times throughout the day takes that overwhelm, doesn't it? I always kind of like that analogy of doing that.
Yeah, just breaking it all. I still do that now, especially when I've got quite a lot of work on, which seems to be a lot at the moment. I'll break it into chunks. It could be if you're doing rehab work, so say you've got shoulder issues, doing some rehab work, some shoulder rehab work while the kettle's boiling, just doing like 30 seconds to a minute here and there. But yeah, so yeah, anything. It's just a case of what can you do.
Yeah,
For someone who's training regularly, um, and they're finding dips in performance and a really low motivation to kind of get any kind of training in. If you're training regular, hopefully you know what deloads are. So a deload is like a decreased intensity of training. It's usually like 3 to 7 days, anywhere in between that, where you can just reduce the volume of training that you're doing. You bring the weights back, and it just lets fatigue decay a little, lets your recovery improve, feels you more refreshed. So when you get onto your next phase of training, your body's ready for it and recovered. I pretty much follow the same kind of
yeah,
principle for that. So what I do with the ladies that I work with is if we're going through that, even if we're only a couple of weeks into the training block, we'll reduce the training.
yeah,
Training is not necessarily, and I swear by this too, is like training is not necessarily what you can do in a session, it's what you can recover from.
yeah,
So if you're really pushing yourself through a session, but it takes you 4 or 5 days to recover, then you just missed out on 4 or 5 days of training, or
yeah.
missed out on a week of training. Where if we dial it back a little bit, still getting that consistency of doing something. There's a really good analogy that
So if they sort of like if they're working in the gym, would that be mean something that they might drop down what weight they might use or something? So say for instance I use myself on this, I might deadlift whatever I'll lift that time, but then the week after my energy might be low, so I might not put as much on. And instead of trying to worry about, oh well, she's putting that on or she's putting, I just do what I need to do. And I might do slightly less reps, but I know I can recover quicker in the days after it rather than thinking I'm going to push on through and try and pull this, try and do this. So is it that kind of thing of just of when they're training?
that's exactly it. So if you're training regularly, hopefully you're logging your training, so you've got an idea of what weights you've done in the past. Example for me, last week, I had a certain number I need to hit on the squat. I put it on the bar, I took it off, and it felt like someone put a car on top of it. It just wasn't moving at all. So the the inner person, the kind of inner voice in your head might say, "Oh, just grind through it, just get through it." But then I'm thinking, well, how long is that going to take me to recover from it?
Yeah.
So it's exactly the same. It's the principle of strength training and recovery is the same principle throughout. It's just a case of, okay, if I do this, what's the damage? What's the cost of doing this workout? If I force myself through this, how long is it going to take me to set back? If it doesn't feel safe, then you kind of answered your question there already. So it could be a mixture of a few things. It could be you could lower the weight.
Yeah.
Personally, I kind of lower the weight. That drives the intensity down, lower the volume. So if you're doing 3 sets, maybe do 2.
Yeah.
Increase the rest times. So if you're having like a minute in between or 2 minutes, have 3 or 4 minutes. See how that feels. If that feels okay. If it feels like you need longer, take longer. Just make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. What you could do then was next month. So you look at it calendly month by month. If the same thing happens again next month around the same time in that week, then you think, all right, we've got a little bit of a pattern here. If you're lucky to have a pattern,
Yeah.
if it's sometimes some of the people that I work with, it could be random. So but you'd still address it the same anyway. But if you see repeatable patterns that happen over and over again, you can kind of program your training
I'm
around
going
that.
to
Yeah.
say that by logging it, because I know myself, mine's always like 2 weeks into the month, or say thereabouts midway. That's when I have my dip and I think, oh, I have to lower. So I suppose if you can sort of judge on where you're at, you can adapt your training accordingly. And I suppose that's the benefits when you've got a coach, because that you can sort of say, look, I'm feeling X like this today on that. And, you can say, well, let's lower this or let's do that, can't you? So I suppose it's just them adapting really, isn't it?
Yeah,
They
100%.
how they
100%.
feel. So so what role does protein and nutrition play in supporting strength training? Obviously, I know this is a massive, massive subject, but I think just as an overview of how important is protein and sort of nutrition when people are um, training. And I was going to throw something in there just to ask you about the benefits of sort of what you think on like creatine and stuff like that for women and things, or generally around strength training.
Ooh, I'm glad you saved the light one for near the end. So I'll start with the easy one. So protein. So there's a reason why protein's a macronutrient, because your body needs it. So I know that we say carbs are macronutrient, and you can get by with not having carbs. But if performance wise, you need carbs. I know I don't upset anyone who follows certain diets or anything like that. But in my experience, when I've trained people for performance and they've cut out carbs entirely, they feel like rubbish. I won't swear on this.
No one bothers in it. I think we're all carb people in this group anyway. Everyone
Yeah,
loves
and if there's a reason, so there are let me caveat that by saying, there are maybe some demographic, if they're diabetic, if there's some things where carbs need to be really strictly monitored, totally different.
Yeah.
But if you're a healthy individual, I don't see any reason why carbs shouldn't be in your diet. And plus, those little sneaky flippers are everywhere anyway, so it's really hard to dodge them.
Yeah.
I thought I did really well there. If you don't know me, it's like I did really well there for not swearing.
Yeah.
Question. Oh yeah, so protein, yeah. So you might have heard protein being named as like the building blocks of life and things like that. It's because it really is true. So a really good analogy. I do like analogies. I'll try and keep it sweet, and short and sweet. But so if you think of a construction site, and you have like the architects, and you have the designers, and you have the builders, and you have the people who bring the scaffolding, you have the people who mix the mortar, and so instead of having all different jobs to do, protein is all of that. It does like hair, skin, nails, muscle tissue. It really is the fascia that runs around the muscles. That's all helped by protein or built by protein. So it's really, really important. If we're not getting enough protein in our diet when we are going through a weight loss phase, a fat loss phase, let's call it what it is, because the aim is not to just lose weight, the aim is to lose body fat so we look leaner. Looking for an athletic tone, let it look.
Yeah.
We really need to increase our protein intake.
But also as we age as well.
Because what will happen then is if we're building more muscles, that's more protection for our bones, helps with bone density, like we discussed earlier. So yeah, it's really, 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 really important.
Yeah.
If there's loads of ways that you can find out how much protein you need. 1 gram per pound of body weight is kind of the go-to. One interesting one that I saw a few months ago was like whatever your centimeters is in height, that's the amount of protein per gram that you did.
It's a bit technical.
Well, I kind of looked at it. So I'm 178, I'm 5'10", so 178 centimeters. I'm roughly around, I'm a lower end, probably about 180 grams of protein. It's not a million miles off. So
Yeah.
there is some there, and that's lean, that's per lean body mass as well. So if someone one of their goals is to lose body fat and they have a high percentage of body fat, it wouldn't be per pound of their actual weight, it's lean body mass. I think that's the difference as well. So some people, if they weigh, 250 pounds, it doesn't necessarily mean that they need to eat 250 grams of protein per day.
Yeah, it would, yeah. So it's dependent.
So yeah, if anyone was struggling, that I'd probably get a little help with someone that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say somebody, but you would probably need some help with that way. So
yeah,
obviously, I know that's obviously going into nutrition is a whole other ball game. But yeah, I think it's just them knowing the importance of protein and stuff. And yeah, and it was only sort of a touch on creatine because I hear like I do take creatine because I find it helps me recover after. But I've in within a protein shake. That's what I put mine in, and it does help me recover. So yeah, so I just your thoughts on creatine and how it helps, and is there is there my brain's not working a certain amount of creatine you should have per day, or do you start off on a lower dosage or whatever?
Yeah, really, really good question. I take creatine when I remember. So I I do have a late diagnosis of ADHD. So a lot of the stuff that I always prescribe, sometimes I might forget to do myself. So I do take creatine. I take it as much as I can. It's between creatine and whey protein. They're probably there's the most research about those two supplements that's out there. Nothing else comes close. All proven to be really safe. There are side effects, maybe some bloating if dosages are quite high. Because what creatine does, one of the side effects is it drags water into the muscle, which helps it recover, helps it function better. So you have to drink a lot when you're drinking creatine. So it's not something that you probably stinge on your fluid intake.
Yeah.
For dosage wise, in the olden days when I was in my 20s, it was kind of like you used to do loading phases. So you'd do like 10, 15 grams a day or something like that for a week, and then you'd back off, and then you'd have like normal 3 to 5 grams a day. So what's the research that's come out since then is you're probably perfectly fine just starting from 3 to 5 grams a day and not even doing a loading phase.
Yeah, that's kind of what I do, 5. And I find that's just enough personally for my stomach. Anything too much more, I get bloating and stuff like
It's
that.
awful.
It like makes you feel like get really bad tummy ache, and so I found that was something that I thought, well, I'll try it. And in particular for me, I personally did try it when I was at home after, because I was like, oh, what if I get a bit of a dodgy belly and that? So with it.
Yeah. So if you're thinking of doing it, it is safe.
I'm more than happy to share links on things.
Not many supplements that I try and promote. In fact, I don't really promote any supplements. I always try and get it from food first, which you can do with creatine. But if you're struggling to get that much in, or if you don't hit your protein sources, whey protein powder, creatine are really, really safe supplements to use. And start on the lower dose of creatine. I think it's like 3 to 5 grams. I may be wrong on that, but I think I start on the lower end because the stomach cramps that you get from creatine if you take too much is real.
Is there a supplement range that you recommend that you use if you creatine? What do you tend to, or do you just you can send us that, you don't have to if you're not 100% sure now anyway, you can always pop me the
I don't really follow a particular brand. I kind of go with I have two or three that I kind of bounce between, and I'll be honest, it's depending where it's got the offer on.
Yeah. No, but yeah, a lot
which
of them
everyone does.
Yeah.
Protein used to be really cheap, but I don't know, since COVID, it's like doubled in price. So yeah, the main ones that I use, I really like bulk powders. I've got no affiliate. I've got no codes for you or anything like this. So I'm telling you with honesty, it's bulk powders. Do like my protein, and Amazon do their own now. Amfit, I think it's called.
Oh yeah, I've seen them. Yeah, I have seen them.
They seem to be the ones that make me less gassy and they're not filled with stuff. So some of them they'll put more carbs in it to make it taste nicer, or
Yeah,
they'll increase fats to make it a different texture, or some of the fillings that they have in it, some of the bulkers that they'll put in there, it kind of makes it a little bit gassy. But I think bulk is like grass-fed whey protein.
yeah, that's what
Um,
I use the Will Powders ones. They're what I use, but
yeah.
I think I pay about 45 for a small bag of protein. So it does. That's got.
How big's the bag of protein there, Em?
I'm trying to think now. I'll have to. Is it 500? It might be less than that. I don't.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
So
it's got bone broth in it, this one, and creatine that I have, but it is I've just got a slightly cheaper one from there because it is quite pricey, that, isn't it? £45 every like 3 weeks or
I
so.
mean, if you're getting like 3 kilos of it,
Yeah,
that's,
no,
that's probably 2.5 kilos, 3 kilos. That's probably the going rate. But with protein, any pure whey protein is fine. It doesn't need to be isolate. I know there used to be a thing about isolate being superior to the oh, I knew I was going to forget what it's called. But they're not, like it says, like pure whey protein.
yeah, that's the
It's
thing.
fine. The cheapest protein is absolutely fine. It doesn't need to be a diet whey because that's filled with things which bumps the price up, which you don't really need. It'll say it's got extra BCAAs in it. You don't really need because you'll get that from whey protein anyway.
Right, yeah, that's the thing. I think it's overwhelming sometimes, isn't it, with the amount of stuff
Oh
that's
yeah, the supplement industry is like huge. It's a multi-billion-pound industry for a reason because everything's the best. Everything's the supplement that this is the thing that no one's telling you about. Those kind of things where in reality you just needed to supplement your food. If you're getting the most things through food as possible, you can
yeah.
supplement it with a cheap whey protein powder.
Right, perfect. And then just lastly, for us to wrap up was how long would you say roughly it takes for people to benefit from strength training? Because I'm assuming you're probably going to answer this of like, well, obviously it does all depend on how we're sort of where we're at and the consistency. But what do you kind of feel with people to keep going? Because it can be, I think, a little bit, a little bit like disheartening. You feel like you get to a point, you're like, oh God, when am I going to start seeing the results? And when am I going to? So, what's your kind of rough guide on that?
Yeah, so with it's not as much it depends as you think it is. So with as long as we're not dealing with any injuries or pain at the current pain at the moment, signs of strength improvement is pretty quick.
Strength is mainly neuromuscular.
Weeks. So what I mean by that is the message sending from your brain to your muscle to perform.
Yeah,
How quickly does that happen? That helps display strength.
yeah,
That could be a few weeks before you start seeing things. I mean, you'll know yourself when you first started training. The 5 key dumbbells felt, oh my God, this is like the most heaviest thing I've done. And then a few weeks later, you're on the 7.5s, and then you're on the
I know, and you get to that
close up
point.
to the tens. And
Yeah, I mean, I just did the other day, which I was, I'd started last May properly training, and even like fives were like when I was doing chest press was like, oh gosh, this is a little bit thingy. And last week I managed to do 15s, and I was like, so that time. But I think that's where it's important that it is consistency. I probably couldn't have even picked a 15, dumbbell up from the floor when I first started, let alone lift it. So I think it's allowing your body just to keep that consistency, isn't it? And fueling your body right. Like you say, sleep. I mean, sleep as well for us menopausal women. I mean, generally all of us, but I think recovery and sleep is massive, isn't it? It's all those key elements and stuff. So,
yeah,
but
yeah.
perfect.
But like I said, the displays of strength you see pretty quickly. One thing I would mention as well is if you just focus on the process of training rather than the goal all the time, it's so much more enjoyable. The
Yeah.
little personal best that you set yourself, or the extra rep that you do every now and then, or the quicker
Oh
you recover,
yeah.
or
When you can do that, I think you do, and you feel like me the other day managing to do 15, but that was for me having that guide from my coach to say, no, just pick them up, have a go. I think you'll be able to do it. Yeah, I only did one set because I had a slightly 12 and a half, but when you then do it, you actually feel proud of yourself. You're like, oh, actually, yeah, I can do this.
oh yeah, yeah. Honestly, it's so rewarding and frustrating and
Yeah, that's
enjoyable
it.
and funny and enjoyable. It's all it's like it's every emotion,
Yeah,
um, but yeah, if you're not doing it, I definitely recommend that you please at least try it, or at least find a buddy who can help you come along and experience it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for all that amazing information. And before you go, do you want to just tell everybody where your gym is, how they can train with you, if they want to approach you? I can share all this anyway we have like a group WhatsApp chat group, so I can pop all that in there. But if they want to do any training with you online and so on, do you want to just share a little bit of info about that before we go?
Yeah, absolutely. So the main place that you can find me is on Facebook and Instagram. I do a little bit on TikTok, but not that much. So if you want to follow me personally or get in touch with me personally, it's Andy_Laves, Laves, and that's Facebook and Instagram. If you want to follow the gym where I am, it's Trident. It's Trident Health Performance. So the Instagram name is at Trident_HP. And that's the same for Facebook as well. Easy to
Perfect.
remember.
Yeah.
Kind of programs that we run. If you want to work, I do online coaching, I do in-house coaching, but we also do program only. So if you don't want to coach, but you want some kind of structure of what to follow, we have programs available on there as well.
Amazing. And you're based in Rochdale, just for everybody to know. So most of the members in here are all pretty local. We actually do have one in Littleborough, that is
All right.
there. So we have got, and then most of them are kind of this area, Rosendale based and that. But yeah, so Andy is in Rochdale. But I'll share all the links and everything inside the WhatsApp group. So you've got everything there. You can follow him on Instagram. And then if you want to work with him any further, then you can drop him a message personally. And like I said, if you've got any questions or anything that we haven't covered in here, I think we've covered a pretty good, decent chunk today. So then we will have. So yeah, so just a big thank you to Andy for joining us, and I hope everybody enjoys that.
Oh, thanks.